Hello, my name is Alec. I am the technical manager at Quelfire, and one of the big things Quelfire have been pushing for is collaboration. And I'm very excited to announce a collaboration with Josh from Boxstrap. So Josh, if you'd just like to introduce yourself.
My name is Josh. I'm the managing director and inventor of Boxstrap. It's a simple bracket that holds metal back boxes, and it was designed to hold a single or double back box.
Great, thank you very much. So the reason for this video, we wanted to share some frequently asked questions about the Boxstrap, but also the putty pad. So first, Josh, obviously you've explained what the Boxstrap is. How is this installed into a sort of a wall?
So the installation process is quite simple. You just have to cut your plasterboard out, your cutter, whether it's a single box or double box. And then once you cut it, you sort of install the bracket through the hole.
Yep.
Put 2 screws, drywall screws, and then self-tapping screws.
Oh, so it doesn't have to be installed prior to the dry lining board there, so you can do it literally when the dry lining's
Yeah, so the wall could be closed, and then you can install it the same as a dry lining back box.
So this must have huge benefits for the dry liners then, this product.
Yes, because some of the things that dry liners love about it is the fact that you don't have to cut the metal back boxes prior closing the wall.
Okay.
So you can just leave the cables inside the wall, get your plasterboard, close it, and then the electrician or the dry liner can cut the back box after with the right tools and the right measuring template. In addition to that, it removes any bowing that the sort of telescopic bracket currently causes. Where the telescopic bracket goes from stud to stud,
yeah,
there's like a bowing on the plasterboard, and when you over tighten a switch or a socket, that tends to sort of bow the plasterboard as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so no, that's great. So obviously benefits to dry liners, but are there benefits for electricians themselves?
In regards of electricians, there's benefits on speed. It's around 4 times faster to install than the traditional methods.
Yeah.
When you got studs close to each other, you won't need to cut the telescopic bracket. You can just install the bracket, the box strap vertically.
Yep.
And then there is a technical sort of issue that we've had in the industry where we get earth parallel paths, because where you got a light switch on this stud and then you got a socket on another stud, is sort of bonding the earth conductor together.
Okay.
So when you're doing your initial verification testing at your distribution panel, your consumer unit, you're not able to get your accurate readings.
Yeah.
For your R1 and R2 test. And in some contractors, they tend to sort of remove the light switches and sockets off the wall, leave them hanging prior to doing the test. But you can see how inconvenient that could be.
Yeah.
Especially you're coming in once everything's painted, and then that's when you want to do your test. And if you do want to do that and try to get the accurate reading, it's not practical.
Yeah.
So people tend to just get the reading with the earth parallel paths and just make a note on the certificate.
I mean, seems simple there. That will solve both those problems there. So that's really, really good. So Josh, one of the things I know that happens on site is plasterboard gets put up and then contractors use plastic conduits before the electrical first fix. So will Boxstrap be able to be used with that type of scenario?
So in those scenarios, there's 2 ways of doing it. So
okay.
You could, the way I would suggest is that when you're doing the plastic conduits, you stop 100 mil above the point, above the light switch or above the socket. And then the dry liner, again, doesn't have to cut around the metal back boxes. He can just close the wall.
Yeah.
Cut out the single box and double box. The electrician can come in, first fix the whole apartment, and then when the dry liner comes back, he can basically install the box straps and the metal back boxes because the cables are already in place.
Yeah.
Or he can, depending on sort of the sequence of works, the installation of the metal back boxes can go back to the electrician.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the other method would be, if you definitely want the conduit installed, you can use the offcut of the single cutout or the double cutout as a spacer for the box strap to allow for the metal back box to sit back to allow for the conduit to go inside.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
so both solutions. So depending on things. So yeah, I think especially that first option mentioned there might be a bit new to contractors, but I think that might benefit quite both the dry liner and the electrician all in one. So it's quite a good idea for that. So
yeah, I think that's the best solution, because there is some developers where they do that sort of method of installation, and I just think again it will remove the sort of wrong cutouts around back boxes if you close in the wall without having to cut it, especially on a party wall.
yeah, definitely.
The only time it wouldn't work would be on a SFS wall, because the SFS wall requires insulation, VCL, so around the metal back box that needs to be in place prior to the plasterboard.
Yeah.
So then you would use like a steel Copex, use the telescopic bracket, metal back box, seal around it, and then close it. So you would definitely on SFS walls have to stick to the traditional telescopic bracket.
Oh yeah, but like I said, they should know that side of things. So that's good to know. So yeah, so the next sort of question, and I know this word's quite prominent now in the industry, is sustainability. So what's the sustainability like for the box strap?
So in regards of what we can measure for sure, what we're confident with is that we're using 70% less steel compared to the traditional method of installing. So compared to the telescopic bracket. And then, so that's what we're confident can say. We're using 70% less steel. And then the other stuff that we can't really measure, let's say, would be the fact that we made it in the UK, so there's no sort of importing it from another country.
Yeah.
The packaging is less packaging, less storage required. And those are sort of factors that we can't really measure. But for sure, 70% less steel. It reduces roughly per apartment 12.8 kilos of CO2.
Okay. Yeah.
By using the box strap.
And I suppose, I mean, we talked a little bit before this video, and that is that this is a good also replacement for where plastic boxes are normally used as well. So a lot of sort of electricians, dry liners might use plastic boxes because of the issues with caddy brackets with being in the wall, etc. And this sort of alleviates that problem. So you're finding that this actually helps give electricians the choice in the scenarios where they'd only be stuck with plastic, the option to use the metal and the box strap. So I think that's a good sustainability thing as we move away from those plastics type thing as well. So I think that's a good benefit on that side of things as well for it.
Oh no, definitely. And the one thing I would add is that whenever you're using plastic boxes, you're not really future-proofing the house for customers that want flat accessories, because the plastic box has the lip and prevents your flat accessories from sitting flush on the wall. So with box strap and a metal back box, you're future-proofing the property as well.
Yeah, which is very important nowadays, especially with electrics and stuff like that, because technology is always advancing. So yeah, that's extremely useful. So thank you. So as you can see, box strap, some of the frequently asked questions have been answered there, but we can see the benefits, and I'm sure Josh will be very happy that you can contact him to find out more benefits. The reason for this video as well is the collaboration. So one of the important things, because this is a new product, is ensuring that it's right for all scenarios, and fire is what we known as a hot topic, pardon the pun. So we wanted to ensure that this can be used in not just your non-fire rated walls, but also fire walls. So we're going to ask some of the frequently asked questions that Josh has already received regarding his product.
So Alec, what sort of fire testing have you done so far, like on a single layer plasterboard?
Yeah, it's a great question. So a lot of manufacturers don't do a lot of testing for penetrations of any kind through single skin plasterboard walls. Quelfire have done a lot, but we have tested metal socket boxes with a box strap in a single skin wall that was 75mm thickness. So that will cover the thinnest wall that's typically used for that, and also thicker walls as well. And it got an extremely good fire rating, and we can share that detail. So it's worked very well and it's fully tested.
Have you sort of done the similar testing for double skin plasterboard?
Yep. So again, extremely good test. We've done a test on a double skin wall. The overall thickness was 100mm, which typically the smallest double skin wall you get, and our evidence will cover thicker. And one of the big differences we actually noticed, because we've done the test with both the metal caddy bracket and the box strap, is that we got a much higher fire rating in the 100mm wall with the box strap, especially from that insulation with fire resistance period. So it covers thicker walls, whereas with the metal caddy bracket, you're limited to about 90 minutes on the 100mm wall, and you need to look at our 130mm wall data for the 2-hour fire rating. So the box strap did extremely well.
Okay, no, that's good to know. And in regards of the spacing between sockets or switches, what's the closest you can
Yeah,
get
so
the back boxes?
that's a very common theme, especially in kitchens and stuff like that. You want socket boxes close together. Big problem with plastic socket boxes, you have to have 100mm spacing, and that's, as far as I know, with every manufacturer a minimum. Some of them actually require 200mm. So with the uniqueness of the box strap, we were able to have 2 socket boxes close together that the face plates were 0mm touching. So that leaves you, I think it's approximately 20mm in between the socket boxes. But again, fully tested, and there was no detrimental effect on the fire resistant performance. It did really well.
Okay, so the sockets were actually sort of touching.
Yeah, the sockets touching. Obviously, we had to position the box strap so it's sort of like vertically positioned, which again is ideal because it's got that flexibility for it as well. So yeah, no, can be close together. So going back to your benefits, where these might be used where plastic socket boxes tend to be used, you have the added benefit of that sustainability, the ease to install, but also the fact that you can have these a lot closer than you could have plastic ones together as well.
So in regards of the bracket being installed horizontally or vertically, does it matter for?
No. Again, obviously conversations with yourself of how it was used. We've tested it in both that orientation and vertically and horizontally, whichever way, and it had no effect on it as well. So it was, again, that flexibility is very good, especially when these socket boxes might be close to stud work. You find that having it vertically is a great benefit for that. So yeah, we tested it in both scenarios and it made no difference.
Have you done any testing with media plates or the kitchen grids?
Yeah. So again, another unique thing that Quelfire do is we don't just stick to the 1 gang, 2 gang. We've tested media panels, quite large ones. And with that, again, talking about the orientation, we've done our test with 2 box straps that were in opposite corners, sort of diagonally positioned.
Sort of like that, right?
Yeah,
like that.
exactly like that. And we've done both metal media panels with the plastic faceplate and a metal faceplate as well. And that test has gone extremely well as well. So yeah, it covers not just standard socket boxes, but those more common now media panels as well that's coming out onto the market.
How about timber houses? Do you do?
Yeah, no, that's actually a great question, and your product helped us out quite a lot. So for a lot of people that they don't realise, timber frame is automatically covered by metal framed evidence, but there is a caveat. So most manufacturers will test plasterboard on a metal stud, and that evidence is transferable due to the test standard to timber. But the standard says that there must be 100mm space between the timber stud to the penetration. So if we imagine the socket box, and in between that, there should be 100mm of A1 or A2 rated insulation, so non-combustible. That causes a problem because a lot of the time socket boxes and conduits, etc., are close to the timber. So Quelfire did a test, and thankfully using the box strap, again in that vertical position, we've done testing with the socket box 0mm from timber studs, and also with conduits, and there was no detrimental effect. So for non-load bearing walls, we have the evidence that can reduce that 100mm caveat using metal socket boxes, the box strap, and those the conduits that we tested, both metal and plastic, to give you a variety, with no detrimental effect. And for load bearing walls, if they reach out to me, we included extra thermocouples within the wall to get a reading of the cavity temperatures that fire engineers can use to make sure that they're happy that these products can be used in those load bearing scenarios as well. So it was quite a good feat, and in fact we have more evidence for timber with box straps help there than we've ever had with any other type of wall system. So it's helped the market tremendously already, and I'm sure it will do in the future as well.
Okay, so just to be clear, for timber houses, you've got, let's say if this was the timber stud, and then you've got another stud there. Currently, you're supposed to stay 100mm away from
the rules are for all timber frame, unless tested, it's in the BSEN 366 Part 3 standard, is there's a 100mm rule. So this is not just for socket boxes, your radiator pipes, plastic pipes, 100mm from the stud, and in between that cavity there should be A1 or A2, so that's non-combustible insulation. It's not a rule that most people are aware of, but it's always been there. When we're talking about sort of letterboxes, that's where you'll get the plasterboard lining to protect the stud work. but obviously socket boxes, they don't do that. So because a lot of houses, schools especially, use timber framed, we went away and did specific testing, and like I said, with the socket boxes, having the box strap immensely helped us, because one, metal caddy brackets aren't typically used. They tend to use just a timber noggin otherwise, and we were struggling to get the socket box close. But with the box strap in that vertical horizontal position, we had the socket box 0 mil, and then we had the conduit as well, 0 mil, and yeah, no detrimental effect. In fact, we did a single skin plasterboard timber frame and got well over 60 minutes with it, so it's a good detail. The only sort of still scenario that might just needs extra review is the load bearing and non-load bearing walls. So non-load bearing walls, I'm happy with our evidence covers, nullifies that caveat, but for load bearing, we've just got some extra information that the fire engineer just needs to look over and approve, just to say, yeah, they're okay, just because there's some concerns from structural thing, which isn't part of my test, but is part of the wall test. But for timber, that's normally quite easy to solve because they have char rates, etc., like that as well. So.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I mean, box strap might be helping in those, but it's also the quality of your putty pads by the looks of it.
yeah, no, it's really going to help the industry there. So it's good. It's good that we have that option, and like I said, it timed really well, the fact that we had these timber questions, and we obviously been having the conversation about the box strap, and our installers that do our test walls, yeah, they love it, and it helped them out tremendously as well.
So I mentioned before about sort of using the offcut as a spacer. Have you done any testing with that?
Yeah, so obviously from conversation with yourself, and this is why I like the collaboration aspect, because, you know, I don't go and install everything on site, so our team takes the feedback back, and one of the things you explained how for certain things, so when we've done sort of the large media panels, to get that space for the conduit, we needed to have the box strap just a little bit further back. So yeah, we've tested that just with the offcuts of plasterboard in between the box strap and the wall, and again, no detrimental effect on the fire resistant performance. So it's so you have both options. So going back to your earlier thing with the conduits, if they don't stop at 100 mil and they need that extra depth, then we can apply with that. And again, all you simply do with the putty pad is just extend it to the front face, so you might just have to add extra putty. With media panels anyway, you'd have to join extra putty together because of the size, but yeah, we have both scenarios covered from a fire resistance performance perspective.
Okay, now one thing I would want to add is that, you know, the bracket itself was designed, it has a 26 mil depth.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we took into consideration the thickness of the plasterboard, so it could be 12.5 or 15 mil. So if it's 15 mil, you got a total depth of 41 mil.
Yeah.
So it's sufficient for like media plates, kitchen grates, dimmer switches. But it's just, yeah, if you do want that extra depth,
then we got it covered. Yeah, you've got it covered for both. So yeah, it's like I said, it's solved all problems. But without that collaboration with yourself, we wouldn't have known something little like that. So that's where, you know, I have to thank you for that information and this product. It's been really good, and I hope it does make people's lives easier, and I think it will. So.
No, I appreciate the support. You guys have been doing a good job.
So that brings this short video, but hopefully very informative video about the collaboration that Boxstrap and Quelfire have done to give you solutions. Obviously the box strap, hopefully for the electricians and the dryliners out there, are going to solve you a lot of problems, not just on your firewalls, on your standard walls as well. It gives you a lot more options available, and obviously there, where you do have them in the firewalls, everyone out there has the knowledge and the, you know, that benefit-free, sort of worry-free aspect that there is test evidence, and it has been fully fire tested, and you can reach out to yourself to get all that evidence. But for any questions for the box strap, obviously reach out to Josh, because he, as you've seen from this video, knows a lot more about it than myself. But yeah, we're always happy to help. So just from myself, Josh, thank you very much for coming on this video. Thank you for letting us test this and for collaborating, and yeah, look forward to working with you in the future.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Cheers.
Thank you.